Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a professor of construction management, and today we're going to be starting off the video series on my new textbook, Understanding Construction Drawings for Housing and Small Buildings. This is the 5th edition of this book, and I'm hoping that you will get a chance to really understand how to read prints. Whether you're a student currently taking a course somewhere, or you're a tradesperson, apprentice that wants to learn more about reading construction drawings. You don't have to purchase the book to watch these videos and learn from them. I do think the book will help you because there's a lot of questions and there's drawings that are supplied, and it's by doing and executing that you really learn this stuff. But I will be going through a lot of material. Probably there will be about 35 videos, somewhere in that neighborhood, as I go through complementary videos that help to explain things maybe where people might struggle or they want more detailed information. Maybe you're in a class that I'm teaching and you just want to get my perspective from the video, or you missed a session. All right, so let's get started. Today we're going to be looking at just an introduction from Chapter 1, Part 1. This is regarding the industry. So I'll be bringing in a lot of analogies and stories and different things into these videos that you probably wouldn't find in the textbook from that perspective. The textbook's really good with the drawings and the questions and the nitty-gritty. But definitely, I wanted to sort of give you an idea about why this video series can help you. Reading construction drawings is fundamental to being successful in being a really good tradesperson, being a great foreperson, being a site super, a project manager, an estimator. Like, everything is tied together with your ability to read the construction drawings. You might be reading them for different purposes depending on your job and your role, but being able to look at these drawings and interpret that information and then figure out what you want to do, whether it's to do an estimate, whether it's to lay out a floor, whether it's to set up a site, whatever that may be, understanding how to read drawings is fundamental. It's a really good starting point for you. So we're going to talk first off just a little bit about the different industries that are in construction and how they tie together, because this course or these series of videos tied to the book really is about housing and small buildings. So we're going to be really sort of unpacking low-rise construction, wood frame construction from beginning to end. But there's a lot of commonality and there's a lot of information that is common across all sectors. In fact, I would say the first quarter of the book to a third of the book is on common things like drawing types, like scaling, like hatching and symbols and abbreviation and details and cutting plain lines and line types. All of these things, they're common across drawings. So that will be very helpful no matter what sector you're in or where you want to go. And we usually start with low-rise residential construction because it's probably the easiest one. Not that it's easy, but it's the easiest one to get the fundamentals of how drawings are structured and set up understood. All right, so that's really where we get into that. And we'll talk about why construction drawings and specifications are so important. So we'll unpack that as well. So, you're looking at the front elevation of a house here, and that front elevation of a house is giving you a certain amount of information. It's telling you the different materials that are used. And, some it's very self-evident. It's like brick, and it's like stone, and okay, this is garage doors, and these are your windows, your entry doors. But there's a lot of information, too, that you have to understand, like floor heights, ground floor height, finished ground floor height. What does it mean, finished ground floor height? What does it mean, second floor? Basically, the elevation or the height, right? And we'll unpack all of these types of things. Every drawing, they need to be interrelated, and you got to understand what you're looking at and why it's shown a certain way for you to fully comprehend what it is, and so that you can build from it, right? That's where it gets really important. So in construction, we have a lot of different sectors. We have institutional, we have commercial, we have industrial, we have heavy civil, we have residential, we have renovations, restoration. Like there's a lot of sectors in the construction industry. I live in Toronto, Canada, and we build a lot of condominium buildings and projects in the city all the time. It's a very high growth city. And, it's a different way of constructing buildings from low-rise residential, but yet there's a lot of commonality in how the drawings are presented. Are they more complex? Are there more drawings? Are there more specializations within the drawings? Yes. But at the core, how are things viewed? Do we have elevation drawings? Do we have floor plans? Do we have section details? Do we have site plans? Yes. And so understanding how these work together and how the industry works is fundamentally important. So in our course and in my book, I really dive into residential low-rise and renovations. We look at renovations in a later chapter. Right now we're talking about chapter 1 in the book. And restoration, well, restoration is just restoring something to its original condition, more or less. These condominium buildings that are currently being built, at some point, their balcony slabs will fall into disrepair and they will need to be restored. That would be restoration. The underground parking, with salt and corrosion and that will need repairs, restoration to it. So it could be it could be a low-rise heritage building. You could live in a city where you got a lot of heritage type buildings, and that's a restoration, heritage restoration. It's a type of restoration. We'll look at commercial buildings in a later chapter, the last chapter in the book, in a later video that we'll cover, which will introduce you to concrete and steel structures and how they're similar, but how they're quite different, especially in methodology and construction. And we'll get into those differentiations, but how the drawings show, there'll be a difference in how they show as well, but a lot of commonality too. So that's kind of the industry, and whatever industry you're currently in, it's a great industry, the construction industry. I think we totally undersell ourselves when you look at these headings here and you think about it. Where would we be as a society without construction? We wouldn't have homes, we wouldn't have hospitals, we wouldn't have libraries, schools, we wouldn't have our sporting facilities, we wouldn't have grocery stores, right? So sewage treatment plants, water treatment facilities, all of these things, their infrastructure and commercial and homes, all of these areas, they're very, very important for us as a society. So, as I said, we're going to cover low-rise residential, renovations, restoration. The reason it's called Understanding Construction Drawings for Housing and Small Buildings, a lot of this textbook is based on the National Building Code of Canada, and Part 9 of the National Building Code of Canada is called Housing and Small Buildings. So a lot of my quotes, references, areas of relating to regulatory requirements will refer to Part 9 of the National Building Code. That's the model code for Canada. And there's a reason I use the National Building Code is that different provinces have their own building codes, which are more or less pulled out from the National Building Code. They may disagree, but it pretty much follows the same format. And the way it's moving now is there's going to be more and more similarity in format going forward. A lot of provinces, they just take it the way it is and make some minor adjustments. But bigger provinces like BC, Alberta, and Ontario, they have their own building codes that are in alignment. We have Part 9 in Ontario. Ontario, basically, it's housing and small buildings. And a housing and small buildings, that Part 9 refers to houses that are 3 stories or less, and are 600 square meters or less, and not for assembly purposes. So it's kind of contained in a certain area. Not for assembly purposes means you're not making it a school or a daycare center or something like that. Now, having just referred to the different sectors of the construction industry, I also wanted to make note that the construction industry is advancing itself quite dramatically over the last few decades towards building more energy efficient and sustainable buildings and housing. Particularly in the housing sector in Canada, our building code changes, just talking about the National Building Code and Part 9, but provincially as well, have made changes by leaps and bounds towards being more energy efficient. We'll talk about that. We'll unpack that in a number of the upcoming videos. Chapter 12 and 11 gets into some of the building systems and environmentally sustainable practices that are being performed both from a regulatory requirement and from sustainability point of view. So I kind of have these statements that I refer to in the book, and I talk about the difference between sustainability and green building. I think this statement right here is very good for sustainability. It's talking about humanity has the ability to make developments sustainable to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's kind of what I would say building sustainably is referring to. That's where I think my definition of how I will interpret it, because there's different interpretations out there, and your professor or whoever you're learning under, or if you're self-teaching yourself, you'll have different viewpoints that you'll come across on this. But in residential construction, we have what we call net zero. Net zero means that the house is designed and built to produce as much energy as it consumes. And so that's a very sustainable kind of design and construction process. And our regulatory requirements, building codes in Canada are moving more and more towards that. The biggest changes in building code over the last 34 years have definitely been around more improved energy efficiency, tighter envelopes. That's the separation between inside space and outside space, conditioned or unconditioned space, as we like to say. And there are different levels. So there's what we call net zero ready, means the house is ready, like the envelope is ready. But because some of the technologies are so expensive, they don't want to make the building code say you have to do that yet. And as the technologies improve and time goes on, it becomes able to do it for much, much less cost, which is an important thing to consider when you're putting regulations in place, because you also want to be able to build houses that people can afford. So this is always the challenge, right, in construction. And so when I say green building practices in the book, I'm just that interpretation, because they get sometimes used interchangeably. I feel that green building practices is building at a level that's higher than the code requirements are. And so you got to remember, building code is just this minimum standard of what's acceptable. Anything that doesn't meet that standard is illegal, right? So it's not like this huge lofty standard, but it does, as it raises, like I said, in the energy efficiency side of things, sort of set the bar where the threshold is that builders have to build to. There are some builders that build way above that. They're already building net zero homes or net zero ready homes. Green building practices would be just building above building code requirements. There's different certifications. We have one that's used, and it's called Energy Star. An Energy Star would be a green building practice. It generally strives to be a certain percentage above whatever the building code requirements are. The building code raises, so does Energy Star. So it keeps moving up and up. And so it's definitely a worthy designation from that point of view. We always run into problems where people say they're building green, but maybe they're building the code, but they're not really building green. So that's, people like to, I guess the term is greenwash some things and that sort of thing. Construction's no exception that way. But really, that would be how green building is much better than just building to the code. Building sustainably is building better than green building. You know, like it's at a higher threshold. I would put it that way. Both are good when they're done properly. And so the purpose of why we need good drawings and specifications. Well, we need accuracy. Like if we're going to build a beautiful custom home, we need accuracy, and we need to have all the information so that we can actually build it. If there's stuff missing or they're not done well, how do you build it? Like we need to have these plans, and it's much more cost effective to make mistakes in the design process and correct them in the design process than it is to make mistakes in the design process and correct them in the building process. This has been something that's been an ongoing problem in construction. Technology is helping us. I'll talk about that in another video coming up, where we use building information modeling to build a digital twin that allows us to really sort of vet a lot of the mistakes in the model before we actually experience the mistakes during construction. And so we want to also, like, we have to do all of our drawings very well so that we can submit them to the building department. The building department, the municipalities, are the ones that enforce the building code. Provinces basically set the building code. The enforcement comes by the towns and the cities. And for them to approve it, it has to meet all of the building code requirements and zoning requirements. And every town and city has zoning regulations of what you can and can't do in a particular area. And we'll get into that in an upcoming video. It's outlined in detail in chapter 5 of the book. And I will be, with the book, leaving a description where you, in the description, a link where you can purchase the textbook from. So yeah, meeting code requirements. It's if we miss stuff, we need complete information. Like if I'm a homeowner, I want to get bids on this. I want the bids to be based apples to apples. I don't want them apples to oranges. So if we have a really good set of documents, that will help us to make sure we have apples to apples. And the owner, like during the design process, is this what I want? Is this the house I've dreamed of from that perspective? Or if I'm a developer, is this a house that will be very attractive to purchasers, right? So there's different methods of building. There's the custom home, there's a speculation home. Custom home, you're building it based on somebody's dream. This is what they want. A house on spec is a developer is speculating that somebody's going to want this house, this design, and they will pay the highest and best value for that. So highest and best use. This is what developers look at when they purchase a property. What's the highest and best use for it? And what should I put on it that will return me the best profit for basically the risks that I'm taking in putting money into building this? Because there's a lot of risks that are involved. There can be very good returns, but there definitely is a lot of risks in this process. So definitely the client's reference and making sure that they understand what's involved with it. So this is why we need to really understand drawings, and these are some of the premises behind it, whether you're an estimator, apprentice, journey person, a four-person more so, that's going to need to know, what the layouts are and best operations, etc. Site supers, project managers, estimators, all of these roles in construction and more require fundamentally understanding the construction drawings. So stay with me on this series, and I will stick handle you through this. If I haven't got the rest of the videos done yet, because I'm putting them out weekly, you can also look through my playlists on this channel. I have a lot of videos on differing topics in construction, hundreds of videos literally. You may be interested in the other print reading playlist that I have, but this one's going to be really comprehensive that I'm producing right now based on the book. And again, I'll have a link to in the description. You can get the book digitally or in print through the links. Print is very good because you can get the physical drawings and you can review them, but digital is just as good for people that are used to using digital. So I hope you enjoyed the series, and put in the comments, are you a site super? Are you a four-person, an apprentice, somebody that's a student right now? Maybe you're in one of my classes, you could put that in there, and we'll take it from there, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.